Hey y'all. Okay, so I'll try to do this really quick. This pattern, I've made one other one that I just couldn't get the fit right on it, and I wasn't real happy with it. So I love, and I don't know how to say her name, Suay. I love her new pattern she just posted. I took this thing apart like 5 times, and I know it's not put together exactly the way her pattern calls for, but if anybody is wanting to work on this before she gets her pattern up, I'm getting ready to do another one. One thing that I did do differently was I had some ribbon. It's like, I don't know, 1 inch, maybe it's 2 inch ribbon. And I use that as like a little casing here for my ties, and I put my ties through that instead of sewing it over the top. I don't have any of that fabric that she was talking about, but what I did have was I used to sell clothing, and I had a bunch of damaged leggings, and I took the waistband from the leggings and I cut it into strips, and then also I cut the legs like on the bias the way she showed in the example, and so that's what I'm using for my ties. It is super strong, but it is also stretchy, so I'm stitching that down together. I haven't done this yet, I've just cut it, so that's what I'm using for my ties. I'm going to try this next one to sew it the way she did it. I just truly did not understand the video before, or the pattern before. So I cut out my pieces, and it has little darts on there, and I've got all of my pieces here. And here we go. Yeah, that's it. This is the pocket. I'm not exactly sure how the pocket gets sewed in. I'll show you what I did with mine. I wasn't clear on that. I attached the pocket on the bottom, and I didn't know where the pocket got attached up here, and I just put little stitches right here and just tacked it down. So it's there. I have my shop towel in there. But I know that the pocket is not tacked down exactly the way she probably intended for it to be. It's not sewed down on the sides, but I mean, it works totally fine. Once I have it on, it really works really, really well. The fit is really super good. So anyway, I can't wait to see the revisions on, so I can really understand exactly how this pocket's supposed to be sewed in there, because I didn't know. So the first thing that I did was I took all of my pieces and I just sewed the darts. And if you're new, if you just take the piece and fold it right sides together for the dart, and just take the little point of the dart and take the edges there, so you have those all lined up, and you're going to sew 3/8 of an inch across the dart. You do that to all of your darts, and then I'll be back. Okay, so you're going to take all of your pieces and sew all of your darts, and once you sew all of your darts, like 3/8 of an inch, sew all of them, and then you're going to snip off all of these extra little threads. And then you have all of your pieces. That's the inside piece for me. This is the pocket piece, and this is the front piece, okay? And then the next thing I do is I sew on the chin piece. So I have a chin piece in the inside piece and a chin piece in the front. You're going to take the curved side of the mask, and you're going to line it up with the curved side of the chin piece. And then what I do is I find the middle of this curved piece, like this, and there we go. And then I find the middle of the curved piece, and I put them face to face. Okay, so right sides together. And then at that middle point where I have them together like this, I take a pin and I pin that together. That's just kind of a reference point for me. It just helps me to get that eased in there. So you're going to sew this right side together, curved part with the curved part of the chin piece, okay? And I'll come back and do that. And guys, you're just going to start with the corner of this. At the corner, there's like this little tail right here. You're going to start with the corner of it there, and then you're going to ease that in there, and it just takes a little bit of just sew it slowly and kind of stretch and pull just a little bit to get that curve to match up with this curve. Okay, but I'll be back. Okay, so I have sewn on the chin piece to the curved area. Okay, so when I flip this all right side, you kind of get an idea about what the mask is going to look like. This is the top, that's where your nose goes, and there's the chin piece. Okay, so that's the front of the mask. There's your darts, it's the side of the mask. And then I'm going to take the chin piece to the lining, and I'm going to do the same thing. The curved area is the bottom, the chin piece, and I'm going to put these right side together, and I am going to sew these in. Sew the curved piece to the curved piece, right side together. Use pins, guys, if you you know, haven't done a lot of sewing. Use pins to get that in there so you get it in straight, and then just sew over the pins. I'll be back. Okay, I pinned this one, right sides together, curve to curve. Okay, pinned it together, and then I'm going to sew it at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, I got that sewed in there, and I have a teeny tiny little pucker right there, but it's not going to matter. This one's going on the inside. Nobody's going to see that. That's what it looks like on the outside. No one's going to see that. It's no big deal. So don't be too hard on yourself. What I do then is I take my scissors and I'm going to snip into the curve like this, about that far. Don't go too far or you will snip into your sewn area. So do that next. Okay, let's try this one more time because I think I confused everybody. Okay, so this is the mask, okay? This is my facing outside of my mask. This is my inside of my mask, and this is my pocket, all right? This is the bottom, the chin piece. So I've turned it inside out, and as you can see, I've got the front side fabric of my mask facing towards the front side fabric of my pocket, and then the front side fabric of my liner is going to go sandwiched on top of that. Okay, this is the bottom. I feel like the pocket bottom is the short side of the pocket, which I could be wrong, but I think it's the short side, so I'm putting that. I'm going to sew it to the bottom of the chin, and I'm going to sew all of this together as a sandwich. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to pin it. I'm going to line it up with the liner first, and I'm just going to put that liner in the middle like that because it doesn't go all the way across. I'm going to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to take my chin of my liner of my inside and then line all that up, and then I'm going to pin this, and then I'm going to sew it 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to tack it together, and I'll be back. Okay, so I pinned all of that together. Okay, and what I do when I get to, if I'm pinning a seam, I pull it open. I pull the seam open so it's not as bulky. So I make sure that when I'm sewing over something that I've already sewn together, that the seams are pinned open, if that makes any sense, instead of as opposed to pinning it down like that because it gets bulky. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to sew right across that, and that is the chin portion of the mask, all 3 pieces sewn together. Okay, guys, so I just stitched right across there, okay, and so I've got this big sandwich here. I'm going to flip it right side now, and you can see these are the, so here's the chin piece right there for the front of it. There's the pocket, so the pocket's floating out in the middle, and there's the chin piece for the liner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip all of this around like I'm going to wear the mask, okay? And I'm just going to kind of finger press this a little bit to get it to lay down. Again, you can clip in here, and that will also help you to get things to where they are situated correctly. And then just kind of like where that seam is, where the chin is, just kind of like finger press all of that. All right, so now when you look on the inside of this is the inside of the mask that your face will be into. And you can see there is my little pocket right here. And there is my inside of my mask. So the first one that I didn't really know what to do with the pocket, and it's just basically tacked in there. This one, I'm sewing it in except for the sides, and I'm going to leave the sides open. That way I can tuck the filter in through the side. And I don't know if that's the intent or if they leave the top open. We'll find out when they give us further instructions. But on this one, I'm going to leave the sides open and just tuck it in that way. So the next thing we're going to do is, now that I can see that all of that looks right, that's all laying together, looks correct, I'm going to actually flip it back around to the way that I had it, like this, and then I'm going to pin the top and sew the top across just like I did the bottom. So I'm just going to line everything up, and again, I'm just going to get this, this liner to the middle. One thing that you could do, and I did it on the first one that I made, I did not do it on this one, is on the pocket liner, you could fold under and sew your little edges to where they're finished. I didn't do that on this one. I probably should have, but I did it. If you have a serger, you could serge it. I'm not fancy. I have a cheap sewing machine. So anyway, but you could finish, before you sew the inside pocket in, you could fold that over and like fold it over twice and give it a little stitch. So that's nice and finished, but I didn't do that. So anyway, okay, so again, let's just go back to pinning this is the top of the mask. I'm going to line all of these up. I'm going to pin it all together, and I'm going to sew a straight line just like I did the bottom, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have this all pinned together now. This is the top of the mask, all pinned together, and I'm just going to sew that right down here. Just want to just tell you guys what I'm using for fabrics. This actually was a skirt. I bet you the skirt is 40 years old, and it came from actually my mother-in-law's closet, and the denim is from that skirt. Several things that I have like some fabric. She did a lot of quilting and stuff, and I was able to get some of her quilting fabric, and also another thing that I'm using, and I can't remember if I said this in the start of the video, what I'm going to use for my ties are going to be some pieces of legging waistband. And I used to sew clothes, and so I have a bunch of leggings. So I cut the waistband up into this, it's nice, stretchy, strong fabric, and that's what I'm going to use for my ties. And I actually did that on this one. That's what the ties are made out of, so it works really well. So utilize what you have, and you know, just go in your closet, and we all have old clothes, old sheets, old old stuff like that. As far as the stretchy fabric goes, I just happen to have a whole ton of leggings, and these work so good. So anyway, that's a thought. Okay, so now I have sewn the top as well, so it's all inside out. So the only way that I'm going to be able to flip this out is through one of these little side holes. So I'm just going to go like this, and just snip all your threads, and you can snip off excess seam allowance and all of that, and then I just kind of try to finger press it out a little bit, and then I pop it into place. Okay, so what I've opted to use for my nose thing, because I didn't have any of the little coffee things that they referred to in the video, I do have some florist wire. Okay, so I could use that if I need to. But one thing that I had was I had a big bag of twist ties, so I'm a baker, and I do I guess professional cookies. I'm a cookier. So I have a lot of these little ties for my packaging. So I took 2 of these twist ties, and I twisted them, literally twisted them together, just like that. And then what I did was I found the top edge of the mask, and what I'm going to do, this wasn't the way the pattern was, but this is what worked for me in, I'll show you in this mask. Can you see that little edge right there that I sewed? So I placed on the inside the bread ties, the twist ties, and then I just sewed them in. Oh, the other thing that I did on the twist ties was I just took the ends and just bent them over and gave them a good press so they're not poking into anybody. That was the other thing I did on that. And you've really gotta, like, maybe if you had some pliers or a little clipper, fingernail clipper or something that you could give it a good smash, like give it a really nice good smash so you're not poking anybody through the mask. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this and I put it like right under where my first front layer is, and literally just eyeballed to get it in the middle and took it all the way up as tight as I could into that top seam. And then I'm just going to literally stitch right down the edge right there. And I didn't like stitch it in on the sides. I just tightly stitched it in, just one line, and it's secure. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do next. Okay, so I stitched that in there. I backed up, went back and forth on each end, so it's in there snugly. The other thing that I did when I put the twist ties inside, I stuck them just right underneath this front layer of fabric. So it is right up here on the edge, and it has that seam allowance right there. So it's being cushioned on the inside by that seam allowance, so there's no way that metal's gonna hurt that person's nose, okay? So that's what I did there. Now, this is where my version of this pattern is a little bit different. And what I used for the sides was some ribbon, and it's right here. I have some ribbon that's yay thick, and that's what I used on the sides. And what I did was I sewed down the edges on each end of the ribbon, and then I sewed the ribbon here with my whatever cord that I'm going to use. Whatever elastic that I'm going to use. Let's see if I can find one. Hold on just a minute. Here we go. Use this one. I put that on the inside. I'll come back and do that in a minute. Okay, guys, I decided against the ribbon. I was going to use the ribbon, and I used that on mine, but I got to thinking, I don't know how that will wash, so I'm scared to use that. So this one is actually for my daughter. I have pinned on the edge bias tape. I have some black bias tape, and I pinned that on the edge. And there's for the pattern, the binding strip is too short, but you can just measure out a 4-inch binding strip, like 4x2 or something, 4x1.5 or something, and use that here. I'm just being lazy. So anyway, I'm just using this bias tape, and I'm going to do the binding on the side of the mask with that. The other thing, when you go to do your inside pocket, go ahead and stitch down the side so you have a finished edge, because that will bug you if you don't. That's where your filter is going to go tucked into there. So go ahead and stitch it so it's not unfinished. But anyway, I'm going to finish each side with the bias tape, and then I'm going to try to do the elastic like they did on theirs. I didn't do my first one like that, but I'm going to try to do this one like that. So I'll be back and show you. Okay, it actually worked. So I binded the end with bias tape. This side looks much neater than this side. I don't know, I got kind of hung up there, but anyway, it's fine. And then this is the bottom, there's the chin. So this is the mask. This is nice and bendable with the little twist ties. Got the little bias tape there. Now, from best I can tell from the pattern, what you're supposed to do next is to take your stretchy elastic trim, which I didn't have any, so I'm using strips of legging fabric. And you're supposed to sew them to where this is actually going to go on the edges to here, and the same on the bottom. So then you have your ties. So that's what I'm going to work on next, and I'm not exactly for sure how I'm going to get these on there, so I'll show you when I get it done. Okay, this is what I decided I'm going to do. So I've got my strip of, and I measured it out. It's a little bit longer than the length that they called for. I'm going to do it face right side in to right side in of my mask, and I'm going to sew. I'm going to stitch all the way down, all the way down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and then I'm going to fold it in and then roll it in and do another stitch. We'll see how that turns out. Okay, it looks like that's going to work well. So I've just pinned it and then I'm getting ready to sew that on, and then I'm going to sew down. I'm going to sew these so they are finished. I'm going to do the bottom and then this will be done. Okay guys, here it is, all done. I opted not to sew down the sides of these straps just because my machine won't do it right. But I just took it, it's legging fabric, I took it and pulled the strip, and it just rolls up really nicely. So, I mean, you know, it's totally workable. And then I'll put the filter in right there. The lining still isn't, or the pocket still isn't right. I don't know how it's supposed to go in, but I just left one side open to pop it in there. And use the bread tie for the nose. And this is legging fabric. This is a denim skirt. And this is some quilting fabric, cotton that we had. So anyway, there we go. I hope that helps somebody, and I can't wait to see when they actually put the video out so we can all know how to do it correctly. I've made one other pattern of mask and it did not fit well. This one fits really nicely. So anyway, happy sewing.